Yo, 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 B-Dog's back again, people. Got some good news. I've had a whiteboard from Cathedral Products. Thank you very much, Cathedral, for that. I'm looking forward to using this now in this video. Have some better tools for the job. Thank you very much. This video has been a request from two Year 11s, Ella and Katie. So thank you very much for taking an interest. They've watched my revision tips video and decided to pick equations of a straight line as one of their topics they'd like to work on and improve. So they've asked me to do a video on it. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. Unfortunately, it'll have to be in two parts because it's important not to rush too much through these things. So it's a clear explanation. Means you can read it over, listen to it over and over again, or watch it over and over again. So enjoy. Equations of a straight line, GCSE. Let's go. Okay, so here we go on my new whiteboard from Cathedral Products. We're going to have a look then at this thing about trying to create an equation that describes a straight line. Okay, we start off with a set of axes. Now, you have to excuse the freehand, but when I use a ruler on this whiteboard, it doesn't quite come as nice as I'd like it to be. So, draw a set of axes where we have the x-axis and the y-axis. What else should we have? Let's have some dashes. Okay, so we've got some dashes, and we can call them whatever numbers we want. We can call them 1, 2, 3, or 2, 4, 6, 5, 10, 15. It doesn't really matter. So I'm not going to put any numbers on there for that reason. I'm going to now draw a vertical straight line cutting through this point here. So I'm going to go a nice straight line all the way through my graph. Cutting through that point. So imagine that was a perfectly straight line drawn with a ruler, like yours will be obviously. And I wanted to describe that line. If I looked at it, I could pick 3 points on this line. This point here, this point here, and this point here. And I would know that all 3 points have something in common. If this is 1, 2, 3 and that was 1, 2, 3, this point here would be the point 2, 1. Then I would have 2, 2, and I would have 2, 3. So what I'm saying here is that the first coordinate in each one is 2. So it would be quite simple to call this equation the x, because it's the x coordinate, is always 2. And that would be no matter what on there. So the left hand side of the equal sign is x. The right hand side is 2, so the x coordinate is always going to be 2. And that's what a vertical line looks like. So this vertical line down here would be called x equals -2, because no matter where you are on the line, you are -2 on the x-axis. The y varies, but the x stays the same. That is how you do the vertical lines. The horizontal lines are slightly bit different again. So let's pick a horizontal line. Let's pick this one here. That horizontal line has these points. One here, one here, and one here. So you've got 1, 2, 3 nice points there. This point's called -3. This one is -1, -3, and this one here is 1, 2, 3, -3, -3. So here the y coordinate has stayed the same. So for this one we would call that y equals -3. So we shouldn't have any issues at all be able to look at a line that is horizontal or vertical and be able to call it by whatever its name is. If it's horizontal, it'll be y equals something, and if it's vertical, it'll be x equals something. Okay, so that's your first bit. So get your head around that, then we're going to go on to our next stage. Okay, so we're back again, and now we're going to look at a couple of diagonal lines we need to know. So again, I'm going to draw my set of axes. Again, I apologise for the freehand, but I want you to see me draw axes rather than just have them in front of you. X-axis, Y-axis, a few dashes, a few dashes, a few dashes, a few dashes. Again, I can call them whatever number I want to, it's irrelevant, but what I am going to do is I'm going to draw a diagonal line on here, one that you need to know, and it's this one here, the one that goes perfectly diagonal this direction. So at this point is 1 1 or 10 10 or 5 or 5 5 or whatever it is. This point here would be the point 2 2, and down here would be the point, if it was perfect that is, would be the point 3 3, -3, sorry, -3. Okay, so this one, if you look at the relationship between the x and the y coordinate, they have the same number. So you would say that this graph is called y, the y coordinate, is the same as the x coordinate. So y equals x. So that's why that diagonal line, which is, if it was done perfectly, would be called the line equals y equals x, sorry. And if we look at this other diagonal line that goes in the opposite direction, so it goes down, but it goes down in a perfect diagonal, something like that. What we've noticed on this point here would be the point 1, but then -1. And this point here would be the point 2, but with -2. And up here we'd have the point -2 with +2. So what we see here with the blue graph is that would be called y equals x, but not quite y equals x, actually y equals -x. In other words, it's the opposite sign. So they're the same digit, the same face, but yet different value because one is negative of the other. Okay, so those are the two diagonal lines we need to know. So can you name all the vertical lines? Can you name all the horizontal lines? Can you name all the diagonal lines? If you can do those, that's the first starting point really to understanding about equations of straight lines. You need to know those basics before we go on to our next step. Alright, so make sure you understand that. Awesome. Alright, so now you've got the basic horizontal, vertical, and the y equals x and y equals -x lines in your head, and they're going to be there forever, hopefully. Then we will now look at the other lines that take place that aren't perfectly diagonal, but they are diagonal, and therefore they have a relationship between y and x that we have to describe. And this is how we describe it. We describe it using this form, this overall equation. Y equals mx plus c. And I want to just take a little bit of time here to look about these 4 letters and what they mean. We know what this stands for now from our work we've been doing recently. This is the y coordinate. And we know that changes, most of the time that changes depending on where you are on the graph, except for when it's a horizontal line, the y coordinate will always stay the same. You could argue actually mathematically and that this is a y ordinate rather than a coordinate. So you would argue that this could be an ordinate and then x is an x ordinate. Together they make a coordinate because they cooperate together. But we're used to saying y coordinate and the x coordinate, so we'll stay that way. The x coordinate is obviously the other one that varies depending on where you are on the line. But these letters, guys, these letters are the ones that we need to negotiate and find a value for. And they will have a value if the line is diagonal. Right? The M stands for the gradient. And I'll come to that word in a second. And then the C stands for the y-intercept. So these are our 2 points that we're trying to look for in our GCSE mathematics, and later on in A level as well. These come real, into their own world again then. So the gradient. The gradient is the word given describing the slope of the line. So how the line slopes. Does it slope upwards, downwards? Is it steep? Is it not so steep? Yeah. So does it slope positively? Does it slope negatively? Is it very steep, or is it not so steep? Yeah. All these different types of diagonal lines. All right. So this is what we look. This is the slope. The gradient describes that slope. The y-intercept is very simple. It's to intercept is to cross something's path. So if I intercept a football, I'm going to cross the path of the football. So the football's travelling along in this direction, and then I intercept that line. So therefore I cross the path of that line. Okay, so that's what intercept means. And the y-intercept means the y-axis, where my graph crosses the y-axis. So where it, and we use this fancy word, cuts the y-axis. So if you want to make a quick note of those things, that's great. I'm going to rub them off in a little while. But we're going to look at the gradients in practice rather than we try to explain it. But hopefully you've got all those in mind and you can make a note of that or come back to this video whenever you feel fit. Alright, so that's the basic equation of a straight line that we're going to try and get to now. Hey, yes, so we're going to have to be 2 parts. Don't worry, that means at least you can find places a little bit easier. Hopefully that was clear enough. Remember, we're going to use that M and that C in the next bit, so don't just forget it. See you on part 2.